And if you aim for the sky, you're never going to leave the ground. Strong body will lead to a strong mind, and a strong mind will lead to a strong life, bro.
We're literally just getting started. Welcome to episode number 4 of the Results or Everything podcast. Today, I have a special guest. Today, our guest, his name is MoneyMinh. Now, that tells you everything you need to know about him. We're going to be talking about money, how to level up yourself as a man. This guy I actually met a couple years ago. And we're also going to talk about networking, because if I hadn't built a relationship I have with him, we wouldn't even be doing this. I know in the future, we're going to be making probably multi-million-dollar deals. Everything comes from networking, developing yourself to have those social skills, to be able to connect with other high network individuals. Please help me welcome MoneyMinh. How you doing, my man?
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. Living the dream. Thank you for the intro, bro. That was great, man. Best intro I heard so far, man.
And I actually missed a couple things. So let's start there. Because most people today, they will look at you, they're like, well, he has it all. He has it all. He's a handsome guy. He's making moves with real estate. He's in shape. But obviously, you didn't start there. Tell us a little bit about where it all began.
Yeah, for sure. So, do you want the entire origin story? Or
let's start from the beginning, man.
From the beginning? All right, man. Well, I was originally born in the backwaters of Vietnam.
Really?
You know? Yeah, dude. I'm talking about swamp, pretty much. All we got was corn.
Yeah.
And maybe rice.
I always thought you were born in the States.
No, I was born in Vietnam. So I didn't move to the States until I was probably going to middle school or something, right? And you gotta understand, I'm the only Asian kid going to school, right?
Yeah.
Of all Hispanics.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so I was El Chino for half my life, you know?
El Chinito.
Yeah. So I guess growing up,
but it's better than all white school or all black school.
For sure.
We're more family oriented.
Bro,
we're more welcoming.
I honestly would not have changed anything.
Yeah.
To be honest, because it was the perfect upbringing, because I was growing around other people who were struggling too.
Yeah.
And that kind of showed me damn, man, I'm not white. I'm not just gonna get everything handed to me, right? It actually does take work. And
how old were you when you came to the States?
I was probably I don't know, maybe 8, 9 or something like that. Yeah. So I was it was during grade school, and I didn't know any English, right? But the one thing that I did come with was a crazy work ethic, just because in Vietnam, man, it's very tough to get. This is before the internet was actually a thing too, right? So you just kind of
you're a year younger than me.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's because I came to the States a 7, 8.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So we
probably around the same time we dude.
Yeah, 2007, 2008.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So was it hard for you to adapt? What was the hardest part for you to overcome?
That's a good question, man. To be honest,
other than the language, of course.
Yeah. To be honest, it was just a big cultural difference, bro. I don't know if you understand this, but in the West, there's a very different mindset and culture being raised, right? That's the thing that I didn't really understand. In America, you could literally become anyone, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I came from no one to someone in a very short amount of time, just with discipline and actually action. But I look around, and most of the time, man, especially the people you hang around with, those could either be your greatest assets or greatest liability. And I discovered the people I was hanging around with before were low-key kind of toxic, and actually would try to bring me down. So it was just kind of overcoming that aspect. It was pretty tough, because when you're surrounded by these people, you don't really even understand what's going on. You're just kind of going with the flow.
It's just a norm.
It's the norm, exactly. Okay, no one is making off this. Everyone's just in the hood, everyone's just kind of smoking weed and, gang banging.
So what kind of friends were you hanging out with? Were you gang banging?
I like to think, I was cool with everyone, to be honest. Even in high school, I was chill with the jocks. I was chill with the nerds. I'd be cool with the dudes watching anime.
So who were you as a kid?
Me as a kid, dang, man. I now have to dig deep. I was still ambitious. I still wanted more, but I would say I was lost.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure how to get there, right?
When you say you wanted more, what does that mean? You knew what you wanted, or what does that mean?
It was, I just wanted more from life, man, because I was tired of having to, not be able to afford lunch. Everyone was going to school, and you know how they had their mom pack them lunches and stuff. They had the Lunchables and stuff. And back then I was like, damn, if I could afford a Lunchable every day, I made it. Like that was my standard.
Are you
man.
able to afford a Lunchable every day now?
Dude, no man. The kids who came up to school with the Lunchables where you make the little pizza or the cracker sandwiches, those were the ballers back then. You know, those were like top of the. Everyone wanted to be their friends, dude. The lunch tables were. It was back then. That was my. Like I just knew I wanted more.
Yeah.
I wasn't exactly sure how. Maybe it was through relationships. You know, dude, as an immigrant come to America, you know, you're not gonna rizz up chicks not really knowing English.
Yeah.
And same thing with business and life in general. I wanted more money. I wanted better friends. I wanted to be stronger. I just wanted more from life, and I wasn't exactly sure how to do it, just because it's not the things they teach you in school, man. You know? So yeah, I had to learn that on my own.
So that was elementary. What about high school? Were you more popular during high school?
I got more. I think that's when puberty starts in, and I actually learned English during high school. So it was a lot easier for me at that point.
Because you speak better English than me. Like most people could tell I have an accent.
Yeah, dude, I still have an accent here and there. You could hear it with how I pronounce some words, and I wouldn't even say I'm like the best speaker, but it was definitely something I worked towards. Just because the ability to talk and influence people is such a powerful. I think I read, what book was it? How to Make Friends and Influence People.
That's a classic.
Yeah, it's great book. We highly recommend it. But I remember reading that book and I was like, okay, wait, there's people who figure this, and I guess that kind of led me to sales in a direct way. But during high school, this was when I started first coming up with my first companies, right? Like, this is when I first got a taste of business, right? Because I'd be 14, 15 years old, couldn't really legally get a job, right?
Yeah.
Like, even back in Vietnam, like this is what I used to do. It's crazy to think about.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you're right. Like 14, 15, you can't necessarily legally get a job. And that's one thing I want to point out is like just because it's illegal doesn't mean it's wrong.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Bro, I was hustling since I was like 12, 14.
Yeah.
I was working at a car wash since I was 14 every weekend.
You gotta make the money somehow, because
What were you doing like for your hustle?
Great question. So when I was a kid back in Vietnam, we used to have tourists came by, right? And what I used to do was I would like sell them flowers. I would pick on the side of the road,
Yeah.
right? And then you always tax them because, you know, they're from America, they could afford it. And then when I came to America, because like you gotta understand, Vietnam was like right under China.
Yeah.
We still have the same factories and stuff. I knew the things coming from Vietnam, so I used to drop ship watches. Right?
Really?
Yeah, dude. Like I would create my own website, and then like you would get the watches for like, I don't know, around $5-10 or something a piece. Sell them for like $90 plus, right? And then I started doing that, and that started doing pretty well, right? And like at 14,
What does pretty
15,
well look like?
Huh?
What does pretty well
Back,
look like?
okay, back then, dude, like you gotta understand, if you had made like $100 a day, you were a baller, bro.
Yeah.
You know, like, dude, like you could go out in school, you could boom pay for things, you could get food afterwards. Like, as a kid, $100 is a lot. Nowadays, $100 is not that much. But back then, if I could make $100 a day, which was like maybe 2 sales, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Just run a couple ads. I felt like I made it at that point. But then, I'm sure you could relate to this, being the oldest son.
I'm the middle child.
Oh, you're the middle child. I'm the middle child too. Actually, I'm the middle child too. But I
mean, being an older brother.
The older brother, yeah.
An older brother.
The older brother, exactly. Being the older brother, it comes with a different type of responsibility. And I started learning this very early on, and then and when I started providing for my family, I realized, oh damn, $100 does not get you very far.
Yeah.
So then I transitioned to start my own clothing brand with me and a couple of other buddies from high school.
I do remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. I think this was back in when I was like 16, 17, so it was like a couple years ago for sure. But back then, like, everyone wanted to make a clothing brand, right?
Even now.
Yeah, even now a lot of people are doing it. But back then, like, not that many people like really knew how to do it. So I was like, okay, let me learn it. And the cool thing about being alive in this day and age, if you really want to learn something, there's probably resources out there for you to learn it. And I just put in that work, man. Like, I was talking to all these manufacturers. I was interviewing designers. I was pretty much doing everything.
You had any guidance in that process?
No, but I probably should have. I had.
So if you didn't have any guidance, what was your drive?
My drive?
Why were you doing it?
You know what? At first, it started with me and my buddies just shooting the shit, because especially back when I was 16, 17, there were not a lot of people, especially in my high school, who were like, all right, let's make some start a business. You know, entrepreneurship is sexy now, but back then, dude, like we're talking like I don't know, at least 8 years ago or something, bro. Like no one really knew it, or like everyone was comfortable, like get the job right after, you know. And then I remember this was around the time when like I was talking to my counselors, and they're like, "Oh, when are you gonna go to college?" I was like, "Do I want to go to college?"
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, and I was working my ass off around this time too. So I had the clothing company. I started working. I first started working at like Old Navy. Realized like this is not for me. Then I started. Oh, man, I don't want to jump around too much, but
go ahead, man.
Okay,
we got all day.
So one of the ways, because I didn't know how to afford college, right? But then I remember one of my business partners at the time for the clothing company recommended this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Right, and then that kind of opened my eyes towards like real estate investing, right? I think it was by Robert Kiyosaki or something.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it was one of those books where it kind of like changed my perspective on how I looked at it. I'm like, oh shit, wait, this is an asset? Okay, wait, how does that work? And it kind of made like a little hole for me, right?
Because you're big into real estate now.
Yeah, now I did, but back then, like, just to get my foot in the ground, what I actually used to do is, so my at the house I was staying in, we had like a unfinished basement or something. And we had enough space to actually create like 2 bedrooms type beat, right? Like you would just put up some walls, like a door, you could pretty much get room. So I had this idea of, hey, what if, like I even talked to my parents about it, like what if I bring in an extra, like, I don't know, I think around that time it was like extra $1,500 a month. And they were like, okay, how are you going to do that? I'm like, I think I have an idea. Let me cook, right? Let me cook, dude. So what I used to do is I rented out the space. It was like I make Craigslist ads, you know, post on Facebook Marketplace and stuff like, hey, I had 2 rooms, like let me know. And it's funny because one of my first tenants, his name was Steven, right? And he was like a couple years older, you know, he was super chill, and he actually started working at this place called Retro Fitness.
That's Steven?
That's Steven.
I didn't know it was that Steven.
Yeah, man. So Steven was actually living with me.
Because he was, wasn't he the
He was the manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the manager at Retro Fitness.
That's where I met you.
Yep. It was the gym, like, right around the corner. And he was like, hey, man, like, if you want, like, this was around time I started going to college, too. And honestly, the only reason I actually did was because I was able to rent out the space. And I got accepted to business scholars and stuff, so they gave me money to actually go to college.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, let me check it out, right? But at the same time, like, I was going to class, I wasn't really learning much, you know? And when he told me, like, hey, if you want, I can hook you over with a job at a gym. And this was like, I'm trying to paint a picture. When I was like 17, 18, I was maybe $125.
Yeah.
Maybe, right? Just soaking wet.
You've been getting bills since I met you.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I'm trying, man. I'm trying to be like you, bro. I'm trying to be like you. You know,
Yes,
get
sir.
there.
Yes, sir.
Right. But he hooked me up with the job there, and it was kind of like a light bulb moment because that taught me a lot of skills. Because back then, like, I didn't really know what self-development was or self-improvement in general, right? It was.
I think you were just naturally doing it, though.
Yeah, I was just naturally trying it out, and then I was like, oh wait, I like how this makes me feel, right? It taught me a lot of skills like sales, like marketing. At one point, bro, I practically managed the entire gym. Just because, and dude, me and Steve are so great. Like, I appreciate that guy for like teaching me everything, and showing me the ropes. But around this time, I started getting some more money coming in. I got all the jobs going. I had the most sales at Retro, and this was around the time we met.
Yeah.
You know? And I could, and
this is like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, dude, jeez, time flies, man. But back then, like, I remember you were, like, starting, like, growing your own training business. And I was like, dude, this guy's on it, man. Let me talk to this guy, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that was one of my...
I remember when you started talking, it was just nice flow.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was just natural. I could tell, like, oh, dude, we hit this off. Like,
And then we both connected on the self-development part.
Yeah, because...
We're both young, hungry, hustling.
You kind
trying to make something of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I never want to say I made it, because... most people that look at me, they would say I made it. Publish out there, personal trainer, try and build an online brand as well. But bro, I haven't made it. I'm like we're literally just getting started.
Yeah. Well, what's that saying? It takes like 5 years to become an overnight success or something.
It's like
5 years.
6 a
At
decade.
least, yeah, at least a decade of work. But that's the things people don't see, right? They see where you are now, and they're like, "Oh man, he got lucky." But they didn't see all the years before. I was like struggling, getting my first property, being super stressed out, maxing out my credit cards, trying to figure everything out on the spot. And honestly, like looking back, those were probably some of my greatest moments. Like you don't realize at the time, because at the time it sucks. Like problems are just occurring. Like, dude, what's going on? How does this work? How do I fix this? But then, like looking back, it taught me so much, and I truly would believe I will be a different person without those adversities, right? And I think that's what most men struggle with now. They're too scared to struggle or be in a state of discomfort. Everyone is always trying to find a type of equilibrium, how to get comfortable. But for me, at this point, like anytime I get like comfy or I'm chilling, I realize, oh, I'm getting lazy, right? Like, oh man, now something is going. I gotta do something. I gotta start a new business. I gotta do something to make me put a little pressure on me, right?
Bro, sometimes you have to put your back against the wall.
You got to.
Like, I relate to that so much. When you say you get comfortable, bro, getting comfortable will fucking literally kill you.
Dude, for sure. Like we could just talk about this in the gym, right? If you're just going to a gym doing some comfortable ass workouts, going 5 pounds, are you really working out?
Yeah.
Are you really growing muscle? Sometimes you gotta put yourself in that state of comfort. It's when you feel like you're dying after leg day or something, where you're like, dude, that definitely built something. It's the same for business. I realized, because the same disciplines I had when I started working out, I still apply to my businesses to this day, right? That consistency, that discipline, and having that winning mindset, man. That's what matters. And people don't understand that you are going to be your greatest asset, right? Like we could talk about investing and like what's more good investment vehicles, but I truly think for any man, especially when he's starting off, the best investment you could always make is yourself.
What are some ways young men could start investing in themselves?
That's a good question. I guess it really depends on what you're trying to do, because everyone has different goals, right? But I think if you just start at the gym, start working on the body, because a strong body leads to a strong mind, and a strong mind leads to a strong life, right? I think that's one of the easiest things to do.
I love that. So say that again.
All right, this is the sound bit, right?
Yeah.
A strong body will lead to a strong mind, and a strong mind will lead to a strong life, bro.
I love that.
Right? But it's like, what? How much is a gym membership, bro? $10, $20. In my senior year, my school decided to buy everyone like gym memberships. Right?
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, because the reason why was because we were getting too big and they couldn't fit us all in the gym.
Okay.
We were sharing it with a bunch of like undergrads or like underclassmen. So we were like, okay, let's just go to Platinum Fitness, and like most people would sneak off and stuff. Me and my partner at the time, right, or my business partner, we would actually like work out, and like honestly, dude, you know that post workout high?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like a Superman.
Super addictive, bro. Yeah, you feel like Superman. And dude, I was like maybe 130 at the time. No muscle, but it got me to a point where it started building discipline in me, right? It started improving my mindset. I started looking at life differently. I started becoming more confident. I started being able to approach the girls I like. It just kind of changed everything for me. So I think that's a really good place to start. If you don't know where to start, get yourself in the gym. You're not going to regret it. It's like a $10, $20 investment just to start, right? And at the very least, if you go to a gym consistently for like even a year, at the very worst, you'll be a stronger, more capable, better version of yourself.
100%.
Right?
And I think to add to that, I think like there's certain fundamental skills that doesn't matter if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, personal trainer, a doctor, be the next Elon Musk. I think there's certain like fundamental skills you just have to develop.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
One is being able to talk to people, how to network, how to communicate.
Yeah.
Two, you should develop yourself physically as well.
Facts.
What does it matter if you have money if you don't have health?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Health is wealth.
Yeah.
And then three is just making sure you're aligned with your purpose.
Yeah, man.
1000%.
Like, dude, could you imagine being like a multimillionaire but still be like 300 pounds obese?
Yeah,
like,
there's
dude,
people like that though.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, like, how much is a personal trainer? Like, get my boy Ricky on here, It's a lot of people, like, they might put discipline in some aspect of life, but then they start slacking off on other aspects. And realistically speaking, if you're really about it, you could apply the same principles across all realms of life.
Definitely.
And that's honestly probably how I got my entrepreneur gym. I would personally not be the man I am today if I did not discover the gym, right? I'm still it's still a work on progress, right? And but now I just like I realize before I had time to go to the gym, but since everything just got so busy for me, I just built my own gym at my house. I'm like, okay, let me just
Yeah,
yeah.
I always tell my clients, it's like the main thing is you get it done. Okay, so that's where you came from, the way you start to develop yourself. Talk to them about what you got going on today. Who is Mean today? Because
Today.
now you're known as Money Mean.
Yeah.
How did that come to be? Like, what
Well,
what is it that makes you Money Mean?
Good question. So honestly, I ain't MoneyMinh wasn't even like a name I came up with. It was a name people gave me. And I guess it's just because like especially going to college, there's not many like 18, 19-year-olds
Yeah.
like really like starting real estate or entrepreneurship, right? So I guess I kind of stood out like pretty much instantly.
Not to take credit. I told you to
Yeah,
change your
no,
name
that-
to Money Mean.
Yeah, no, I gotta give you props for that, right? After you gave it to me, it just kind of sticked, right? So I have a couple different businesses going on right now. I guess my primary business, if you could call it, is my real estate investment business, right? I just buy a bunch of properties. Sometimes I flip, sometimes I buy and hold. At this point, I have more tenants than years on this planet, dude. Yeah, so we're building it up. Just now, I'm closing on 4 more units down by SIU, going to turn those into student housing. So we'll see how that goes. And I have another property in Chicago, South Shore, actually, that should be closing in like a couple weeks. So we're building it.
So for the people watching at home that they say like, I want to be like Money Mean.
Okay.
How do they start? Where do they start?
Good question. So it starts with having a mission, having a purpose, right? A lot of times, like I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs or people who tell me, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I will always tell them how to do it. And like I literally give them the blueprint and stuff. Then I meet them like a couple months later. Like, hey man, how's everything going? Oh yeah, man, I'm looking into it. I
What
think
the
I'm gonna
hell?
start soon. I'm like, dude, man, it took you how long? Oh yeah, dude, I just want to make sure I know everything I'm talking about. And it's one of the things I talk about in my masterminds, right? I host my own network called Men's Masterminds, and yeah, no, it's great. I think today we're gonna go over how to start businesses from scratch, right? And I think it's one of those things where most people want to start a business, but they don't really know how. So I would suggest if you want to get to where I am, you need to have goals. You need to actually know what you like. For me, when I started, my goal was just simply to be a better version of myself, right? And that kind of accumulated like after years. I realized every time I set a goal, and once you reach that point, you don't even feel that happy. You know, it's like, okay, man, you know what? I really want to bench. Like before when I started the gym, I couldn't even bench a plate,
Yeah.
right? And then I was like, oh, my goal is just to hit a plate. I just want the 45s on each side, right? And then I made it. Then I bench. I'm like, oh, you know what? That's not too bad, but like, kind of want to hit 225 now. And you realize that every time you hit a goal, all you want is to chase a higher goal. So I think what's the saying? You aim for the stars, and then you'll settle on the moon. But if you aim for the moon, you only will be in the sky. And if you aim for the sky, you're never going to leave the ground. I guess my recommendation for people who want to get to where I am is start investing in yourself. Start actually finding like-minded people. Start finding mentors too. Like this is the thing I started doing later on. I just started looking for people who were where I wanted to be in a couple years, or like who had skills I wanted to learn. I would just try to provide value to them, right? Like, hey, what can I do? And we could talk about like high value skills too, right? But
So for the people watching at home, like
sure.
you have your Mean mastermind, your Mean Money mastermind,
Yeah.
talking about starting businesses, self development, improving yourself. Where can people find you? Are you on social media?
Yeah, you know, I'm on social media, but the crazy thing is, dude, like I don't even post anything on social media. But people just hit me up. You can find me at MoneyMinh across all platforms. And realistically speaking, like my DMs are always open. I find that just replying back to people does a lot, you know? Like a lot of times people don't understand how many opportunities come their way, right? And they just kind of look over it. And a lot of people will say, hey, nah, dude, you just got lucky. You got real estate at a good time. You know, I can't get interest rates around 1-2% now.
But you said sometimes opportunities come across and people don't even see them, that's because sometimes you could be at the right place at the right time, but you might not be the right person.
Absolutely. No,
That's what you call being lucky. Luck
just what
is when
opportunities meet preparation.
yes,
right?
sir.
Yep.
But if you were not the person that's prepared for it, you don't even see it.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't even see it.
Yeah, like dude, during like the pandemic, I think even you realized like this, like, hey, this is bullshit, you know. And then
And then I moved to Florida.
yeah, then you were like, hey, I'm dipping. I was like, dude, I respect that, right? And the real estate market was going crazy. Everything was crashing. People thought, oh, this was the end. But dude, this was the time I really doubled down, right? Because around this time I was finishing up college and everything was online.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, dude, like I'm here in my lesbian dance theory Zoom class, right? I'm just like, I'm not learning anything. I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, I have some money saved up, right? What are the best ways I could invest it? And around this time, the government was practically giving out free money, dude. They were printing this stuff. Everyone got their semi-check. Everyone got their, and I was looking into mortgage rates were like 1, 2, 3%, dude, right? Practically free at the time. And I was like, okay, what can I do with this? And I think thank God, like I had like all the experiences leading up to that point, because once the opportunity actually arose, I actually was able to capitalize on it just because I understood it, right? But most people, they like, what's that saying? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And I think most people, they're too, I'm not saying ignorant, but they're too oblivious to what they don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't take the time to invest into themselves. Like even now, like, dude, I'm learning new things about real estate every single day, right? And I've been doing it for the past like 6-7 years, right? It's only going to get to a point where it compounds. And now, like, dude, I could have a talk about it with anyone about real estate. I don't want to turn this into an entire real estate podcast, right? But I truly believe real estate is probably one of the best wealth builders, especially if you're trying to build a legacy or generational wealth, for sure. And anyone could get started, dude. Like
How much money do you need to get started, though?
You don't even need that much, right? Because let's say you're in a similar position, right? And you won't get into real estate. Well, dude, if you haven't buying properties, you could qualify for an FHA loan, right? FHA loans it's a type of mortgage that first-time home buyers could get. And essentially, those kind of loans, they start off at like a 3.5% down payment, right? So let's say, hypothetically speaking, you get $100,000 property, right? All you need is put like 3.5K down.
Oh, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing, dude. And like you think about it, like, okay, wait, I could put 3.5% down, right? And wait a minute, this property is renting for like $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right. My total monthly expenses for my principal, tax, insurance, interest, all of that is like what? Let's say 1,000. That means every month we're making an extra $1,000 just for having an asset.
Oh,
right.
Damn.
Yeah. Then you start getting the passive income, right?
I'm
You get a
talking
couple
to
more.
MoneyMinh today.
Yeah, dude, you get a couple more, and then you realize, oh damn, wait, this kind of replace my actual income, right? But yeah, it's just all about finding good deals. There's good deals popping on the market every single day. It's just more so being able to find it. I'm also a licensed broker in a couple of states, so a lot of the times I'm actually writing my own offers and I'm getting paid for it.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
You got everything to going together.
Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, it was pretty much upwards integration. When I first got into, I didn't have my license, right? But then I was like, wait, how much am I paying this agent? Wait, I'm doing all the negotiation. Wait, what's the requirement to get a license? I was like, dude, let me just get that. It took me like 2 weeks.
Damn.
Because I was like, okay, let me learn it, and I took the entire course all online. It literally was the same price as like a college textbook.
Yeah.
Right. And then I wasn't learning anything from college at the time. So I was like, okay, well, while I'm doing this, let me just get my license. Let me see how it works, right? And at first, when I got my license, I was just kind of renting my own places out, right? Because I got pretty good at finding tenants through, like I told you, just renting out by the room, like with Steven and such. So I started renting out my units. But eventually it got to the point where I only had so many properties or units available to just rent. But I still had a bunch of people coming out and like reach out to me, right? And I was like, dang, what can I do? But I realized, oh wait, I'm licensed, and I realized, wait, I get paid if I just help them lease something else. So I literally reached back to all of them with me. I'm like, okay, well, unfortunately this unit is already taken, right? But if you're still looking, I'll be happy to find you a similar unit. And guess what the response rate was, dude? How many people would think said yes?
At least 80.
Yeah, 85.
Nice.
Yeah, just straight up, dude. And just from that first batch, bro, I probably had another 10 leases afterwards. And dude, man, this was around this time, dude. They were paying like entire months of rent just for leasing. So I would get like a grand or two just per tenant. And then I was like, damn, now I'm getting a lot of money coming in, right? And then I was still able to negotiate, find my own deals, and all the money that came back to me, I just reinvest back into the business. I never even looked at it as my own money. It's just, okay, how can I invest this money, right? Another book I think a lot of your listeners will like is Think and Grow Rich. And it pretty much taught me like, okay, this is how you should look at money, because most people, they're not raised, like financial literacy is not something they teach you, right? And I truly think if you're going to be a man who wants to be successful in this day and age, it's one of those skills you need to learn in life.
Definitely.
Yeah, otherwise, dude, you're never going to make it out. You don't understand how money even works, right? I thought I knew how money works until I started learning about it, and I realized, dang, I actually didn't know nothing about it. Because yeah, we could go on and on, but
next time I have you on the podcast, we're gonna talk about my portfolio. We gotta make some deals together.
Yeah, bro.
Definitely. So how important? Because today we're going to your mastermind. Well, how important is it to develop those relationships? And like, for someone that right now might be just fresh out of college, or they might be in the mid-30s that they're not necessarily well connected. Where can they get started?
Good question. It all starts. So I think networking is probably one of the most important aspects about business. Like, I think everyone has heard the impression. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You could be the most intelligent guy in the entire room, but if no one knows who you are, or no one knows about you, what can you really do, right? And I think a great place to just start is just even your local gym. Like, that's where we met.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you're in an environment with other people who are trying to improve themselves. You're in an environment with people who probably are similar minded, right? And just finding your group of people, like even in college, the group of people, I even like Evan, Justin, all those guys, there were other entrepreneurs in the business scholars that I just started talking to, right? And you realize that, oh shit, they know something I don't know, right? And here's the thing, you don't even need to agree with everything they know, right? You could just take the best aspect of it and add to your own like mental portfolio, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because like I'm sure we disagree on some things. It's probably political, but we still have a great relationship. And most people look at some people, and just because they don't like them, it's like they block it off.
I think that's like super, because dude, you don't even like, there's people I don't necessarily even like. I'm like, okay, well, they're obviously successful, or they obviously know something I don't know. So let me at least try to learn something from them, right? If you always come into the perspective, because I have the perspective, I'm always a student of life, right? And there's always more you can learn. So I'm not going to be ignorant to think like, oh, I know everything, because I don't, right? I'm still learning every day, dude. I just learned something this morning, right? And I like to surround myself with people who know more, or it gets harder and harder the more you grow, because eventually you become more knowledgeable than them.
But there's levels to it.
There's levels.
So
you
gotta find
have to
the
find a
next
bigger
level.
room, and because starting off, I thought, oh, dude, if I can make 6 figures, I made it, right? Then you hit 6 figures, and you realize it's good money. Don't get me wrong, but it's not what most people think, right? After your taxes, after paying for everything, like you're like maybe upper middle class or something.
Yeah.
Right. And then I was like, okay, let me try to get to $1 million, and then I started working on that. Once you get to around that level, you realize, oh shit, there's even bigger players.
Yeah.
And bigger players, and they think of business completely different, right? And that's still like what I'm working on, right? But if you really sit down and look at real estate, is probably one of those industries that create the most millionaires. To be honest, yeah. And it's one of those industries that pretty much never really going away, because unless a zombie apocalypse happen, or unless fucking World War III pops out, everyone will still need a roof over their head. Everyone will still need a place to live, right? So it's never going away.
Yeah, so going back to you overcoming that like self-doubt, and I think it goes back to putting things in perspective. But sometimes you, like you say, you don't know what you don't know, but you also sometimes you can't even see what you didn't even know it's there.
Dude, that's the crazy thing, man. A lot of people, I think they want to know everything before starting off, But imagine like if you first start going to the gym, like, hey man, I need to know everything about macronutrients. I need to know all the perfect workout routines. Dude, you could do that, but like, no matter how much you know about like fucking picking up a dumbbell and building arms,
It's theory.
yeah, if you never picked up a weight before, dude,
It's all theory.
theory, yeah, exactly. And I think theory is good to have, but if you have too much theory, you could start overcomplicating things. Where like, dude, it's not like I'm going to the gym, pick up a weight, you know. It's the premise for everything. I think most people should, especially if you're low risk tolerance, start light, right? Maybe consume a couple podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Figure out like, okay, where do I want to go and how can I get there, right? Start looking for people who are there and see what could they do, because you don't even need to reinvent the wheel most of the time. Most of the time you just have to copy what they're doing, implement it,
And make it a little bit better.
Exactly, yeah, right. I think a lot of people, when they see someone successful doing something, they almost like they take it and like, okay, let me tweak around, let me play with right off the bat, which you could. But to be honest, if you don't understand why they're even doing it, you might fuck something up.
Yeah.
Right? I think if you start copying what they're doing and you just 2-3 times their results. So let's say you're in a sales job or something, right? Find the best sales guy in the entire office or team, right? How many calls is he doing? He's doing 100 calls? Fuck, okay, let me listen to his calls and let me do 200, 300, right? You just double and triple those inputs, because life is all about leverage and inputs and outputs. Nowadays, I know if I do X, I'll get Y, right? It's the same thing. Back in the day, I just didn't know what my X's and Y's are, right? And you only get that from trial and error, to be honest. So if you're learning sales for the first time, chances are you're gonna be shit. Yeah, and I think that's what most people kind of struggle with. At least that's what I struggled with, right? It's because it's comfortable to still hang around with the same high school friends. You know, they might not be doing shit, but, you know, maybe you guys smoke weed or something, and maybe, you know, they're kind of funny, you know? So it just feels comfortable to be there. But if you're not surrounding yourself with people who actually try to push you to be better, then you're only going to start regressing, right?
I think, like, I don't know, 20-30% of your time, you should be hanging out with people who are ahead of you.
Yeah.
Another 40-50% of the time, people who are on the same mission as you, trying to go up.
Yeah.
No more than 10%. Like, people that, I would say, under you, but they're not, that they don't have the vision like you.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I kind of look at it as like the 1/3 rule, right? Where I'm at least spending 1/3 of the time with people who are further ahead, or people who are on the path I want to be on. 1/3 of the time with people who are like around our level, you know, people who are on that mission purpose. Another third of the time I'd be just
10%. Don't say 30.
Yeah, no,
Don't say a third.
No, but I think having a healthy social life, especially if you're like trying to network, is very important, because someone always knows someone.
And some people get too serious about it. Like, they don't enjoy life no more.
Yeah, dude, you gotta have that healthy balance, bro, because it's almost like, yeah, you could work all day, don't get me wrong, right? But what are you working for? Are you working just to get gray hairs and like, because trust me, there's always more you can do, right? Like, I would constantly have to like fight this on my own, be like, oh man, just take a little break. That's why for my birthday I was like, I'm just gonna take a little mini vacation 1 week, just go off the grid, be in my mountain, in my cabin, just living with the bears, right? And I think every guy kind of needs that.
It's nice to have a little refresher.
It does. It does.
Not so long, but yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times if you're already constantly in that cycle, it's very hard to give perspective on it, right? Because sometimes you guys take a step back, and the times where I had the most growth was when I literally took a break and be like, hey, am I going where I want to be, or am I on the right path?
It goes back to reassessing. Ask yourself those 3 questions.
Every month, man, you got to ask yourself, like, what am I doing? And most of the time, you kind of already know the answer to what you need to do, but you're just scared to do it, or you're just unwilling to put in that work, right? And once I came to that realization, I discovered that, dude, the human mind is insane. The things you could do with it, amazing, right? But most people aren't even willing to like develop that weapon. Most people aren't even willing to put in the reps. I'm like, dude, what else? All you got is time. You got your entire life to build up your mindset, and you're here, and you live in the most privileged country. Even if you're completely flat broke, bro, you can still find a way to keep the lights on. The government will give you money. It's very hard to just.
Do you think America, the U.S., is still the most privileged country?
I think so at the moment, but I think that's going to be
You're
changing
not one of
soon.
those people that hate the U.S.
No, I love America, bro. America is amazing. Like,
Isn't it crazy? People born here hate it.
dude, I'm like, bro, you're born in the best country. You know how like it took me years to be able to come to America, bro. Right? So like, maybe that's why immigrants like appreciate America so much more. But it's literally land of the opportunity. Like, there's never like you're never gonna run out of opportunities in America, right? But I think the problem is most people aren't willing to put in that work. And if like we said, dude, luck is just opportunities meet preparation. If you're not prepared, you're always gonna let opportunities slide by. And the people I think who hate America the most, like to be honest, man, I never met someone who's like super rich and successful, and they also hate America. You know,
Unless you're from California.
unless you're from California, yeah. Then, dude, everyone's broke in Cali, right? But when you're like taking advantage of the American system, you realize there's no better country to be in. Like truly, like dude, this is what like where else in America could you, or where else in the country or planet where you could get a property for 3% down, right? Where else in the country could you be free to express whoever you are?
For now.
For now, right? For now.
Now we gotta make sure it stays like that.
Man, we gotta save
And
that for
that-
the second podcast, bro.
No, yes, without going too far. That's
Yeah.
why people like us need to start speaking up, because there's so much hate towards America. There's so much cancel culture. There's so much propaganda, and people who are working and hustling, we just stay working and hustling. That's why this is to give platforms to people like you, like me, to make some noise, man.
Truthfully, bro, I'll be honest. I think no matter what, I'll still be fine. Like we could have any president, we could be under any regime. As long as you keep the same principles in the mindset, you'll be fine regardless of what happens out there. I think the people who get the most upset, like, dude, we live in America, land of the free. What happens to free speech, right? You used to be able to say everything, but nowadays, like, people are too scared to even speak their minds. I'm like, dude, what does that lead to? Like, what? Like, eventually, like, that's what happens to the Nazis, dude. You know, people didn't want to speak their mind, and look what happened. And I think a lot of the times in life, especially, you have to understand that there's things you can't control, but there are things you could control. And if you just keep focusing on things that you can't control, oh no, the government sucks, I can't speak my mind, you're going to naturally fall into a victim mentality, right? But if you only start focusing on the things you could control, bro, you're going to have an iron mindset. You're going to be a beast if you just keep it along.
We gotta wrap this up soon, because we gotta go to
Go ahead to the mastermind.
Money Means Mastermind.
Yep.
Mean, leave us with your top 3 takeaways for people watching at home.
Okay. My top 3 takeaways is very simple. As a man, or especially as a young adult growing up in America, ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to live? And are you taking the right actions to get there? The answer is no. You know what you need to do, right? Most people, that's one. Figure out what you want to do and ask yourself, are you on the right path, right? Number 2, who are you surrounding yourself with, right? Are you surrounding yourself with a bunch of losers? Or are you actually surrounding yourself with a bunch of people who are trying to make you better, right? Because a lot of what we talk about, it's easy for us to say because all we do is surround ourselves with killers, right? So we kind of have to, you kind of have to adapt, right? But if you're just surrounding yourself with people who think it's fine to work a 9 to 5, and dude, chances are everything in your life, you're just gonna be just like them, right? And lastly, and I think this might be the most important part, is always try to be a better version of yourself. Always, even if you're 1% better a day, by the end of the year, dude, you're gonna be 3 times the man you were yesterday, right? By the beginning, right? And no matter what, if you just try to be a better version of yourself, no matter what happens, no matter what is going on with the world, at least you know that you are the best investment you could ever make. And no matter what, no matter how much money you're spending, it's going to the right person.
Amen to that. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you
Thank you for coming by.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.